Deep within the hallowed halls of Riyadh, where the spiritual pulse of a nation is measured, a decision is being forged not in the fire of political crisis, but in the cool, silent hum of the digital age. The Saudi Council of Senior Scholars, the most venerated body of Islamic jurisprudence in the kingdom, has convened. Their subject is not a new interpretation of a 1,000-year-old text, but a query born of silicon and code. Before them lies the specter of the generative scholar, an artificial intelligence capable of consuming the entire corpus of Islamic law and issuing religious guidance, idhal, in milliseconds. The pronouncement that emerges from this chamber will ripple through the global Muslim community of nearly 2 billion people and send a shockwave through the burgeoning world of faith tech. The decree is stark, absolute, and unprecedented. A comprehensive ban on fatwas generated by artificial intelligence. This is not a simple rejection of new technology. In a country that has embraced hyper-modern mega-projects and digital transformation with unparalleled zeal, this decision strikes a dissonant chord. It represents a fundamental clash of paradigms, the timeless, human-centric tradition of spiritual counsel versus the immense, data-driven power of generative AI. For centuries, a Muslim seeking guidance on matters great and small, from the ethics of a business transaction to the proper way to grieve a loved one, would turn to a qualified human scholar. This scholar's authority rests not merely on encyclopedic knowledge, but on a foundation of piety, wisdom, and a profound, empathetic understanding of the human condition. The fatwa is the fruit of this deeply human process. Now, that process is being challenged. Proponents of AI argue that a machine, trained on every religious text, every legal precedent, and every scholarly opinion, could offer guidance free from human bias, fatigue, or error. It could be a democratizing force, providing instant religious knowledge to anyone with a smartphone anywhere in the world. To understand the weight of this ban, we must first grasp the role of the fatwa itself. It is not, as is often misunderstood in the West, a binding death sentence. It is a legal opinion, a piece of scholarly advice. Yet its power is immense. A fatwa can shape personal lives, influence markets, and guide community ethics. It is a living, breathing application of sacred law to the messy reality of human existence. The Council's decision is therefore a defense of the very soul of this process. Their declaration implicitly argues that spiritual guidance is not reducible to information retrieval. It cannot be automated. It requires a heart that understands doubt, a mind that has grappled with ambiguity, and a soul that recognizes the presence of the divine. An algorithm can process rules, but can it perceive righteousness? It can identify patterns in text, but can it comprehend the unwritten language of human suffering and hope that a questioner brings to a mufti? The Council's ban is a powerful statement on the perceived limits of artificial reason. It posits that some domains of human experience are and must remain exclusively human. In their view, the AI is a black box. Its reasoning is a probabilistic calculation, not a principled derivation from sacred sources. The Mufti, by contrast, must show his work, tracing his conclusion back through a transparent chain of logic rooted in the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. This is the bedrock of trust between the scholar and the believer. As news of the decision spreads from Riyadh, it lands in the bustling tech hubs of Dubai, the ancient universities of Cairo, and the vibrant Muslim communities of London and Detroit. The reactions are a mixture of relief, confusion, and criticism. Some see it as a wise and necessary protection of sacred tradition. Others view it as a fearful act of gatekeeping, an attempt by an established clerical class to maintain its monopoly on religious authority in an age where information yearns to be free. The glowing lines of code morphing into Arabic calligraphy represent a new frontier, and the scholars in Riyadh have just drawn a firm border. This decision forces a question upon all of us, regardless of faith. What is the true nature of wisdom, and can it ever be replicated by a machine? In banning the AI fatwa, are these scholars protecting an essential human truth, or are they attempting to halt an inevitable future? Building on that unprecedented Riyadh decree, to truly comprehend its significance, we must journey past the headlines and into the very engine room of Islamic legal thought. The sacred process the Council seeks to protect is encapsulated in a single powerful Arabic word, ijtihad. It translates roughly to struggle or striving, but in the legal context, it means the intense intellectual effort exerted by a qualified jurist to derive a ruling from the foundational sources of Islam. This is not a mechanical act of looking up an answer in a book. It is a dynamic, rigorous, and deeply human endeavor. It can scan every manuscript in seconds. It can cross-reference every verse and every hadith, identify every legal precedent, and construct a logical argument based on the principles it has been fed. On the surface, its output might appear flawless, a perfect synthesis of 1,400 years of jurisprudence. But the Saudi Council's ban points to a critical flaw in this digital perfection. The AI lacks what is known in Islamic ethics as niyyah, or intention. Its process is not a struggle for truth in service of God. It is an algorithmic function. It cannot truly understand the context of the person asking the question. Is the questioner a desperate single mother trying to invest a tiny saving, or a wealthy speculator? A human mufti's advice would be tailored, compassionate, and pastorally sensitive to this reality. The AI, by contrast, would provide the same sterile, context-agnostic answer to both. It lacks the lived experience to comprehend poverty, fear, hope, or exploitation. A scholar's hand tracing ancient text symbolizes a connection to tradition and a depth of understanding that a machine cannot replicate. This tension is not unique to Islam. The challenge of integrating AI into roles of spiritual and ethical guidance is a global one. In Judaism, the tradition of literature involves rabbis answering complex questions of Jewish law. This process, much like niyyah, is deeply textual but also profoundly contextual, relying on a rabbi's understanding of their community and the nuances of human life. The idea of an AI issuing a fatwa raises similar concerns about the loss of the human element. In the Catholic tradition, the sacrament of confession requires a human priest not just to hear sins, but to offer counsel and absolution, acting synbihe. It is an encounter built on human presence, empathy, and pastoral care, qualities that an AI confessional bot, no matter how sophisticated, could never truly embody. The Saudi ban, therefore, is not an isolated religious curiosity. It is the Islamic world's first, most definitive answer to a question that all major faiths are now beginning to ask. What is the irreducible human core of spiritual leadership? And what happens when technology offers a seemingly perfect but soulless alternative? Extending that debate beyond Islamic jurisprudence, the Riyadh Decree becomes a powerful echo in a global conversation about faith, ethics, and the future of humanity. The scene shifts from the quiet chambers of the Council of Scholars to a brightly lit stage at a tech ethics symposium in Geneva. A Catholic priest, a prominent rabbi, and a Buddhist philosopher share a panel with a Silicon Valley CEO. The topic is the algorithmic soul, and the air crackles with the tension between ancient wisdom traditions and the disruptive force of artificial intelligence. The Saudi ban is a central talking point, a real-world case study that crystallizes the abstract debate into a tangible conflict. The core question that unites these disparate voices is a profound one. Can a machine, an entity of logic and data, ever truly engage with the sacred? Can it possess, or even simulate, the qualities we associate with spiritual insight? Each tradition approaches this question through its own unique theological lens. The priest on the panel speaks of the concept that humanity is made in the image of God. This, he argues, bestows upon humans a unique dignity and a capacity for love, mercy, and moral reasoning that is a reflection of the divine. He might reference the Vatican's Rome Call for AI Ethics, a document that advocates for AI development to be transparent, inclusive, and responsible, always placing human dignity at its center. The concern is that an over-reliance on AI for moral guidance could atrophy our own God-given capacity for ethical deliberation. The rabbi might then invoke the ancient Jewish legend of the shadowy silhouette of the Golem of Prague, a story of an artificial being created to protect the community, which ultimately grows beyond its creator's control. It's a centuries-old cautionary tale about the hubris of creating intelligence without wisdom, power without a soul. The rabbinic tradition itself thrives on debate and the acceptance of multiple valid interpretations. It's a nuance that a deterministic or probabilistic AI might struggle to honor, potentially flattening a rich tapestry of thought into a single, optimized, correct answer. The Buddhist philosopher offers a different perspective, one focused on consciousness and the nature of mind. Can an AI achieve mindfulness? Can it understand the nature of suffering, not as a data point correlated with negative outcomes, but as a felt, lived experience? The path to enlightenment is a journey of inner transformation, something fundamentally at odds with the external data processing nature of a machine. From these varied perspectives, a common thread emerges. As the theologian Dr. Noreen Herzfeld argues in her book, our technological creations are forcing us to ask fundamental questions about ourselves. The rise of AI holds up a mirror, compelling us to define what exactly makes us human. The Saudi ban on AI fatwas, seen through this global lens, is less about Islam versus technology and more about humanity versus automation in one of its most sacred domains. It is a defense of the messy, inefficient, but profoundly meaningful process of human spiritual struggle. Yet, the counter-arguments cannot be dismissed. The tech CEO on the panel would passionately argue that AI could democratize religious knowledge, breaking down barriers of language and literacy. Imagine an AI tutor that could make the complexities of the Talmud or the Upanishads accessible to a teenager in rural India, or a tool that helps a young imam find relevant verses for a sermon on climate change. Could AI not be a powerful tool for enhancing faith rather than replacing its leaders? This is the central paradox. The technology that threatens to dilute the essence of spiritual guidance also holds the potential to spread its teachings more widely than ever before. The digital divine is not a future possibility. It is already taking shape in prayer apps that track devotion, AI-generated art for places of worship, and chatbots offering comfort. The decision made in Riyadh, therefore, is not an end to the conversation, but a powerful opening statement. It forces us to choose what we value most. It is a declaration that wisdom is more than knowledge, that guidance requires more than data, and that the journey of faith, with all its doubts and discoveries, is an intrinsically human endeavor. In our rush to build an intelligent future, we must decide if the soul is something we are willing to outsource.